Roughly half of Americans aged 65 and older have prediabetes, and about 1 in 5 to nearly 3 in 10 have diabetes, depending on how it is measured. So, if your blood sugar jumps after a breakfast that looked healthy, whole wheat toast, orange juice, and a low-fat yogurt, you are not imagining it. After 60, the same foods that barely bothered you years ago can start pushing glucose up surprisingly fast. That is one of the most frustrating parts of getting older. You try to eat better. You buy the foods with the healthiest labels. You skip the obvious junk. And still, an hour or two after a meal, you feel sleepy, foggy, thirsty, or hungry again. Maybe your meter tells the story before your body does. Maybe you notice blurry vision, frequent trips to the bathroom, or that heavy, drained feeling after breakfast or lunch. A lot of people shrug and call that aging. It is not always aging. Post-meal blood sugar spikes matter because they are not just numbers on a screen. Repeated high glucose is linked to damage in the eyes, kidneys, nerves, and the heart and blood vessels. For older adults, that can also mean less stamina, more fatigue, more dehydration, and more risk of losing the sharpness and steadiness that keep you independent. Even falls can become part of the story, because very carb-heavy meals may worsen blood pressure drops after eating in some seniors. There is also a reason this gets harder after 60, even if your habits have not changed much. Aging is often linked to more insulin resistance, a weaker early insulin response, and less muscle mass. Muscle is one of the main places your body stores glucose after a meal. So when there is less of it, and the insulin signal is slower or weaker, sugar stays in the bloodstream longer. That is why a food that looks wholesome on the package can behave more like a refined carb than you expect. The good news is that this is often not about giving up food you love forever. It is about knowing which healthy foods are healthy in name only for your blood sugar, and which simple swaps give you a much steadier ride. In many cases, the form of the food matters more than the marketing. Whole fruit is different from juice. Steel-cut oats are different from instant oats. A plain yogurt is different from a sweetened one. Change the form, and you can often change the spike. Start with whole wheat bread. This surprises people. Whole wheat sounds safe, but most whole wheat bread is still made from finely milled flour, and that flour is digested quickly. One Harvard-associated source lists whole wheat bread with a glycemic index around 74, which is higher than many people would guess. The label whole grain does not guarantee a gentle blood sugar response. A better move is true whole kernel bread, sprouted grain bread, dense rye, or even shifting some meals toward intact grains like barley, bulgur, or farro. Next is fruit juice. Juice has the healthy glow of fruit, but once the fiber is mostly gone and the sugar is in liquid form, it can hit the bloodstream fast. That is why whole fruit and juice do not act the same in the body. One whole orange is a much better choice than a glass of orange juice. The same goes for apples, pears, berries, and oranges eaten whole. If you want something refreshing, try water or sparkling water with citrus instead. Third is low-fat flavored yogurt. Yogurt itself is not the enemy. The problem is what often happens when food companies remove the fat. To make it taste better, they frequently add sugar, fruit puree, or both. So the cup that looks light and healthy can turn into a hidden sugar bomb. A smarter choice is plain Greek yogurt or plain unsweetened yogurt. Then add your own berries and maybe chia seeds. You get more protein, fewer added sugars, and a slower rise in blood sugar. Fourth is instant oats. Oats can be a very good food, but the more processed they are, the faster they tend to digest. Instant oats usually raise blood sugar more quickly than steel-cut or old-fashioned rolled oats. Oats are not the villain here. Instant oats are the problem for some people. A practical switch is about half a cup dry of old-fashioned or steel-cut oats. Then add walnuts, chia, or even a spoon of plain Greek yogurt. That protein, fat, and soluble fiber can help blunt the spike. Fifth is dried fruit. This one needs a little honesty and a little nuance. Dried fruit is not automatically candy, and some studies have found certain dried fruits are lower on the glycemic scale than white bread. But dried fruit is concentrated, small, and very easy to overeat. A tiny box of raisins or a few handfuls of dried cranberries can deliver a lot of sugar before you realize it. If you use dried fruit, keep it to a small unsweetened portion, something like 1 to 2 tablespoons of raisins, and pair it with nuts. Fresh whole fruit is usually the safer everyday choice. Sixth is the store-bought smoothie. Not every smoothie is bad, and blending itself is not always the problem. The issue is what is in many commercial smoothies: fruit juice, fruit puree, sweetened yogurt, sherbet, and large portions can turn one drink into a fast sugar load. If you like smoothies, make them at home and keep them simple. Unsweetened Greek yogurt, berries, chia or flax, and water or unsweetened milk is a very different drink from a large shop smoothie that tastes like dessert. Seventh is sports drinks. These were made to deliver quickly absorbed carbohydrate during long, intense exercise. If you are mostly sedentary, doing errands or taking a normal walk, they can act more like sugar delivery systems than health drinks. For most daily hydration, water is the better choice. Electrolyte drinks have their place, but they are not routine health drinks for everyone. Now here is how to steady blood sugar without living on a starvation diet. Build meals around foods that digest more slowly. Intact grains like barley, bulgur, farro, wheat berries, and steel-cut oats tend to be better than refined flour and instant grains. Whole fruit is better than juice. Beans, lentils, chickpeas, and kidney beans bring fiber and slow starch that release glucose more gradually. A small handful of nuts, about 1 ounce a day, can help, especially when they replace part of a carb-heavy snack or meal. Plain Greek yogurt can become a useful base food when you add berries, chia, or walnuts, instead of buying sweetened cups. Soluble fiber matters too. Foods like oats, barley, beans, okra, chia seeds, and ground flaxseed help slow stomach emptying and carbohydrate absorption. Some people also ask about psyllium. Research supports benefits for blood sugar control, and a practical range used in studies is about 5 to 10 grams before meals. But because fiber supplements can affect medication absorption, that is worth discussing with your doctor or pharmacist first. One more rule can change almost every meal you eat. Do not let carbs travel alone. Pair them with protein or healthy fat. If you have fruit, add nuts or yogurt. If you have toast, add eggs or nut butter. If you eat oatmeal, add walnuts and chia. Foods like eggs, cottage cheese, salmon, chicken, tofu, walnuts, and peanut or almond butter can slow the speed at which a carb-heavy meal hits your bloodstream. You do not need to overhaul your entire kitchen by tonight. Start with 1 week and one simple experiment. Swap juice for whole fruit. Trade instant oats for steel-cut or old-fashioned oats. Replace sweetened low-fat yogurt with plain Greek yogurt and berries. Skip sports drinks unless you truly need them. Then notice what changes in your energy, your hunger, your mental clarity, and your readings. After meals, and if you are having repeated high readings, unusual thirst, frequent urination, new blurry vision, numbness in the feet, or unusual fatigue, do not brush it off as age. Get it checked. You are not failing because your blood sugar rose after a meal that wore a healthy label. You may simply be eating the right foods in the wrong form. Once you see the hidden saboteurs, You can start replacing them with choices that keep your energy steadier, your mind clearer, and your independence stronger. That is a change worth making.